The sound of a single coin spinning on a wooden table gradually slows, finally settling with a distinctive clink. That humble quarter in your pocket? Sometimes it's worth far more than 25 cents. The difference between pocket change and a collector's fortune often comes down to tiny details most people never notice. Behind every rare coin lies a perfect storm of circumstances: mint errors, limited production runs, historical significance, transforming ordinary currency into extraordinary treasures. And few examples better illustrate this phenomenon than the 1991 quarter dollar, a modern coin with a fascinating story that experienced collectors instantly recognize. The 1991 quarter represents one of the most intriguing modern mint errors in American numismatics. During a routine production run at the Philadelphia Mint, something unusual happened. A small batch of Washington quarters was accidentally struck on planchets intended for Canadian quarters. These planchets contained a different metal composition, nickel with no copper core, creating what collectors now call the 1991 Washington quarter on Canadian planchet error. This mistake occurred during a time when the Philadelphia Mint was producing coins for both the United States and foreign governments, including Canada. Somehow, blank Canadian planchets made their way into the Washington quarter production line. The result? A quarter that looks normal at first glance, but weighs approximately 4.1 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams. Identifying these rare quarters requires careful examination. Beyond the weight difference, these coins have a distinctly lighter, silvery appearance compared to standard copper-nickel-clad quarters. The reeded edge also appears slightly different due to the planchet composition. Under magnification, the surface lacks the copper core visible on regular quarters when examined from the edge. What makes this error particularly valuable is its extreme rarity. Numismatic experts estimate fewer than 400 examples exist across all grades. Unlike some error coins produced in large quantities, the 1991 Canadian planchet quarters escaped into circulation before the mistake was discovered, making them true, found money treasures. The market value for these quarters has seen remarkable growth over the past decade. In circulated condition, specimens regularly command $2,500 to $4,000. For uncirculated examples graded MS, 63 or higher, prices typically range from $5,000 to $7,500. The finest known specimen, graded MS, 67 by PCGS, sold at a heritage auction in 2019 for an astounding $19,200. One fascinating aspect of this coin story involves a Pennsylvania bank teller who discovered one while counting her drawer in 1994. Noticing the weight difference, she set it aside, later having it authenticated. That single coin, eventually graded MS, 65, sold for $6,325 in 2008. Not bad for something that passed through countless hands at face value. The value variation based on condition is particularly pronounced with this error. Even heavily circulated examples grading good, 4 can fetch over $1,000, while the jump to extremely fine condition more than doubles the value. This makes the 1991 quarter on Canadian planchet a prime example of how condition dramatically impacts numismatic value. What's particularly remarkable about this error is how it represents a perfect intersection of multiple collecting interests. Error coin specialists, Washington quarter collectors, and even those interested in international mint relationships all find these quarters compelling. It's one of those rare cases where a modern coin commands prices typically associated with much older rarities. Some collectors have theorized that additional examples remain undiscovered in circulation or forgotten coin jars. The error is subtle enough that casual observers might miss it, yet distinctive enough that a weight-conscious collector would immediately notice the difference. This creates an ongoing treasure hunt aspect that keeps interest in the variety strong decades after its production. The 1965 quarter holds a pivotal place in American numismatic history, representing a dramatic turning point for U.S. coinage. This was the year that marked the end of an era, the final transition away from silver circulating currency that had been a cornerstone of American money since the nation's founding. Prior to 1965, quarters contained 90% silver and 10% copper, maintaining a composition largely unchanged since 1873. But by the early 1960s, rising silver prices created a crisis. The intrinsic metal value of coins began approaching or exceeding their face value, leading to widespread hoarding and removal from circulation. The Treasury Department faced a critical decision. On July 23, 1964, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Coinage Act, authorizing new clad compositions for dimes and quarters, outer layers of copper-nickel bonded to a pure copper core. Production of these new copper-nickel clad quarters began in 1965, making them the first quarters in American history without silver content. Here's where the story gets interesting. During this monumental transition, something extraordinary happened. A small number of 1,965 quarters were mistakenly struck on 90% silver planchets instead of the new clad composition. These transitional error coins, known as 1965 silver quarters, represent one of the most significant modern mint errors. Identifying a genuine 1965 silver quarter requires careful examination. The weight provides the most reliable indicator. Silver quarters weigh approximately 6.25 grams, while clad quarters weigh 5.67 grams. Additionally, silver quarters produce a distinctive ring when dropped on a hard surface, compared to the duller sound of clad coins. When viewed from the edge, silver quarters display a solid silver color without the copper core visible in standard 1965 quarters. What makes these transitional errors particularly remarkable is their extreme rarity. While millions of 1965 quarters were produced, numismatic experts estimate fewer than 20 authenticated silver examples exist. This exceptional scarcity, combined with the coin's historical significance during a pivotal moment in American monetary policy, creates extraordinary collector demand. The market values for 1965 silver quarters reflect their rarity. Even in circulated condition, examples have sold for $6,000 to $10,000. In mint state grades, values typically exceed $20,000. The finest known specimen, graded MS 67 by NGC, commanded an astounding $40,250 at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2019. One of the most fascinating stories surrounding these quarters involves a collector who discovered his example while searching through rolls of quarters purchased from a bank in the mid-1990s. Having already assembled a collection of Washington quarters, he immediately recognized the weight difference and distinctive ring. That single coin, later graded -58 Australian dollars, sold for $13,600 at auction, an extraordinary return on a 25-cent investment. The condition factor plays a crucial role in the value of these transitional errors. Unlike many collectible coins where grade differences might adjust value by percentages, condition variations with 1965 silver quarters can mean differences of thousands of dollars. A heavily circulated example might sell for $6,000, while an uncirculated specimen could reach 4 times that amount. These quarters represent a perfect example of how historical context elevates certain coins to legendary status. They physically embody a transformative moment in American monetary policy, the last gasps of silver in our everyday currency. Each 1965 silver quarter stands as a tangible artifact from this watershed moment, preserving in metal what might otherwise be relegated to dusty economic textbooks. For collectors, these quarters offer the irresistible combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, and the perpetual hope of discovery. Even today, dedicated numismatists examine rolls of 1965 quarters, listening for that distinctive silver ring, weighing suspicious specimens, and dreaming of finding one of these treasures that continues to circulate unrecognized. The legacy of the 1965 silver quarter extends beyond its monetary value. It represents the intersection of economics, policy, metallurgy, and human error, a numismatic perfect storm that created one of the most sought-after modern coins in existence. The 1991 quarter struck on Canadian planchets and the 1965 silver quarter represent two sides of the same numismatic coin, modern errors with profound implications for collectors. While separated by decades and circumstances, both share the allure of being hidden treasures potentially within reach of anyone willing to look closely at their change. These quarters remind us that numismatic value doesn't always require centuries of history or gold content. Sometimes extraordinary value comes from extraordinary circumstances, the wrong metal in the right place at the right time. They stand as testament to the human element in coin production, where even in our mechanized age, mistakes happen, creating rarities that capture our imagination. Next time you're counting change or sorting through that jar of quarters, take a moment to weigh those 1991s and listen closely to those 1965s. You never know when pocket change might become a numismatic fortune. The thrill of the hunt continues, one quarter at a time.